So welcome to Module 4 for our ACSA integration. In this module, we're going to go over some kind of tips and tricks for creating your proposal, what you need to be aware of, how you set yourself up for that, kind of some just best practices for the process for creating one of these. So quickly talking about the proposal process, there's a really great workflow for figuring out whether you should even approach this and how to approach it. The very first thing that you want to do before putting any effort into it, of course, is determine your eligibility. Remember, for the SBIR and STTR programs, you have to be a for-profit small business that is majority U.S. owned and controlled. As long as you meet those criteria, you should be eligible. So the next step you would have from there is to kind of sit down and think about your innovation, think about your idea. Really dive into what makes this different, what makes this special. What do I need to do to figure out if this is even feasible? That's really going to inform which agency you're going to focus on, as we discussed before. From there, you want to complete your registrations. Remember, back in the registrations video, we talked about the different registrations, why you need them, how to go about them. But keep in mind that these registrations are free. They don't cost you anything, except some time. Always remember to pay yourself. But they're also one of the things that if you ever think you're going to go after an agency, just go ahead and get your registrations in place. You don't want to be waiting till the last minute to try and get a registration if it's something you've already been developing a proposal for, working on, things like that. From there, determine your agency and topic fit. So we kind of had a breakdown of this before, but really just stepping back again, looking at what you're doing, looking at what you're creating, looking at that path forward, and making the determination on which agency actually aligns best with your goals as a company, the goals of the product, where you want to be, how you want to proceed forward, where you think your market is. Kind of line those factors up and then move forward from there. Because determining that agency and that topic can impact the amount of funding that's available. It can impact the periods of performance. It can impact what you have to create for your proposal package. So keep that in mind and be aware of it, is that before you really start diving into what's in a proposal, what you have to create, you kind of have to know who's your best agency and what's that best fit for you. And then, of course, the next step in the process is to start writing. Again, each of these is going to require some sort of proposal package, and the proposal package is at the minimum going to require a budget. It's going to require a technical narrative, or essentially something that just says this is what we're going to do, and there's going to have to be some sort of abstract or summary. So with those summaries or abstracts, those are always actually published. That way they can kind of package everything together, put it before Congress, show how the money was spent, show where it went, and those are going to be published a lot of times through either the agency website or sbir.gov. So when you're creating that abstract or summary, make sure you don't have proprietary information in there. It's actually one of the key things that they require, is that there is no proprietary information in that summary, since it will be up for public review and public disclosure. Once you think you have your proposal package together, get someone to review it. Don't just review it internally. You want to actually get a third party to take a look at what you created, provide a review, make sure it fits, make sure it makes sense, make sure it seems like it's going to work. We're going to kind of talk about the importance of third-party review in another video, but just keep that in mind as you're thinking about your proposal process. That outside review can be a critical factor. And then once you've had it reviewed, once you've actually gone through the review, looked at the comments, made changes, adjusted it where it needed, made it flow better, made it make sense, you're going to submit. Remember, all of these agencies have some sort of submission deadline, whether it's NSF and it's a window that just informs about when it's going to get reviewed, or whether it's Department of Defense, who has a very specific timeline, a very specific window, even a very specific time during the day that they'll accept proposals up to. Everybody is going to have some sort of submission. And the biggest thing you want to do is not wait till the last minute to submit. You always want to submit at least one day. Usually I prefer 2 to 3 days before the submission window closes, because you kind of want to get it out of the way. If you wait till the last minute, if there's something that you overlook, if there's something that you need, if there's something you have to generate, then you're going to have a tough time getting that, making sure it fits, making sure you have all the information, if you only have 10 or 15 minutes before that deadline closes. Because when that deadline closes, it closes. They do not accept late submissions. So make sure you submit early, because there are also times where information goes down, systems go down. A lot of times, if it's the agency submission system, they will give you a couple of other days, but that's not a guarantee. I have seen it in the past where an agency site went down and they said, well, you should have submitted early. So kind of be aware of that and plan your submission time accordingly. And then once you have that, you're going to wait. Just be aware that typically it's a 3 to 6 month process if you sit in there not really knowing much on where your proposal's at, if it's being reviewed, what the current stage is. A good indicator, though, is if the agency reaches out with questions. If you get a list of questions from an agency program manager, that's a good indication that they're at least interested. They want to know more. They want to know if this is something they can actually fund. You sparked some sort of interest and some keen eye took a look at it. They're not going to ask you to jump through a lot of hoops just for busy work. Ain't nobody got time for that, especially them. So keep an eye out on that email. You never know. If they do ask questions, you're going to get a very short time period in which to answer the questions. A lot of times, maybe a week if you're lucky. And if they want to make an award, you're going to get an email there. If they don't make an award, that's where your review is going to go. So just be aware that as this goes on, don't take a 3-month vacation from your email and go, well, I'm just not going to check it. If any information goes in there, they're going to want some sort of response, typically pretty soon after they send it. And, we talked about this before, but when you are looking at that proposal process, do keep in mind that this is going to be kind of a lengthy thing. When you're writing your proposal, when you're focusing, when you're thinking about how you're going to approach it, always plan for the future, kind of always plan ahead. Know that there's going to be some stages down the road. They're going to want to know, what are you going to do during your phase 2? How are you going to commercialize this? There is that gap that you're going to have to fill when it comes to a phase 3. So in your proposal, showing that you have a pathway for that, showing that you have a plan, showing that even you understand the risks and what you're going to do to try to mitigate them, makes for a much stronger proposal package. So that was really just kind of some brief information about how to get started on your proposal process, kind of what to keep in mind, what to think about, and really how you're going to focus forward, how you're going to make sure that you're giving yourself enough time, you're giving yourself the tools, you're giving yourself the resources. Now, when it comes to tools and resources, we're going to talk about that in the next recording. Be aware that the FAST program has a lot of tools, a lot of resources. We provide assistance, even going back to when we talked about the submission process. So one of the things that FAST can do, if you're a client, is when you get to that submission, you can actually do a kind of shared screen session with us where one of our team members will sit over your shoulder and watch through the submission. Just make sure everything looks fine. Make sure there's no weird errors. Make sure you don't, kind of stumble across something that you're just not sure how to move past. That is something that we do offer to people. And of course, again, if you try to do it on the day of submission, we might not be able to help you out with that. So as always, schedule it early. But it is something that we can do. FAST is funded to help businesses in New Mexico streamline their process for going after these federal funding opportunities, and also really for just demystifying it. How can we make this better? How can we make this a more complete process? And how can we give you all the knowledge, tools, resources, and assistance you need to hopefully be successful with these programs?